Hi, I'm Greg Gutfeld with Kimberly, Guilfoyle, Juan Williams, Jesse Waters, and her first home was made of Lincoln logs. Dana Perino, the 5. You know, it was like a night at the opera.
Pennsylvania is the state that gave us the 45th president of the United States. South Korea came to my office after having gone to North Korea and seeing Kim Jong-un. And no, it's very positive. No. After the meeting, you may do that, but now we have to be very nice because let's see what happens. This should have been handled, by the way, over the last 30 years, not now. I'm joking about being president for life. A couple of them went back. Donald Trump, with his dictatorial attitude, now wants to be president for life. Fake news. I'd love Oprah to win. I'd love to beat Oprah. I know her weakness. Connor Lamb the Sham, right? Lamb the Sham. I hear he's nice looking. I think I'm better looking than him. Personally, I like Rick Saccone. I think he's handsome.
So it had everything. Jokes, check. Insults, check. Media outrage, check.
The booing is getting stronger by the day whenever he goes out there and whips up like it's a Mussolini rally. And yes, that's what I said.
What are you supposed to say when he's using these vulgarities to kids?
And so the media reacted in a sweaty frenzy to a speech the rest of us have pretty much gotten used to by now. What really upset him? This.
Maxine Waters, a very low IQ individual. We will impeach him. We will impeach the president. But he hasn't done anything wrong. It doesn't matter. We will impeach him. She's a low IQ individual. You can't help it.
Now, never mind her irrational accusations she's made about Trump. This is just another sign of racism, which is weird. Why is calling someone stupid racist? Aren't we all capable of being stupid? I know I can. But Greg, Maxine's a black woman. Yes, you're right. I forgot. Remember when Trump made fun of that black candidate? Or that black TV couple? Or that black newscaster? Or that black congresswoman? Or that black Republican? Or that black senator? Or that black war hero? Or that black has-been comedian? Sorry, Trump's an equal opportunity roaster. No one is safe. But my favorite part, when he mocks being presidential.
Remember I used to tell you how easy it is to be presidential? But you'd all be out of here right now. You'd be so bored. I'm very presidential. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. Rick Saccone will be a great, great congressman. Thank you very much.
The walk. I know, how dare he mock the formality of the office? But he's being honest. He showed you the manner of a typical politician, and he said, that's not me. The implication, what good are you beyond such platitudes if you're not killing terrorists, creating jobs, reducing a nuclear threat? And that's the point. The difference between Trump and others, the tasteful charade of political lifers isn't part of his vocabulary. And so you are absolutely right to say that he's vulgar. But what are you going to do when the public says, so what? Wrap it up. We'll take it. So, Jesse, love the jacket.
Thank you very much.
I mean that. No, I don't mean that. That was pretty much an honest appraisal of himself. He's saying, I'm not that guy, which I find kind of honest.
Yeah, I mean, it was the most brutally honest thing I've ever seen on television, and the hits keep on coming. I've ranked the Trump performances. I think Rally Trump is the most entertaining Trump.
Yes.
And then you have Debate Trump right under that. Twitter Trump is pretty good, then Press Conference Trump, and State of the Union Trump. But the only risk here is that sometimes he makes it all about him instead of all about the policy that he's promoting. But by doing this, he throws so much content against the wall that the media just scrambles and doesn't know what to do with themselves. And then the coverage becomes about him and about the event. Because remember, he's almost more of an entertainer than a politician.
Right.
You can still be a leader, but you don't necessarily have to be a politician. And when he goes and he does these things and he connects with the crowd and he's provocative and he's fun and he's engaging an audience and he's trying to build a TV audience because in the long run it's about votes and he makes himself the center of the conversation. The sleepy-eyed Chuck Todd SOB thing, I think it's funny. I think people need to lighten up. I don't think it's a vulgarity. He said a lot more vulgar things than that. And in the pantheon of insults politically in politics, that doesn't really seem like it's the roughest thing out there. And then the Maxine Waters, I think you said it perfectly. I mean, he's an equal opportunity offender.
Yeah, I think
the problem is people watching if they see it, but if they're on radio listening, they didn't see that. In fact, it was all different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Kimberly, does this help?
Yeah.
What he was originally there for, which was to help elect this candidate, whose name I can't even remember because Saccone.
Yeah.
Or has it become just more about Trump and less about getting that guy in?
Well, I mean, I think all things can be true here. I mean, I think it helps him. This is somebody who, Saccone isn't necessarily like a high-energy campaigner, right? So you have high-energy Trump come in to try to kind of like swell the base and get people motivated, turn out the vote, and try to produce a victory here. So I think in that sense, it's certainly got eyeballs and attention, which I think does help the candidate, but it also accrues to the benefit of POTUS, right?
Dana, what do you? I know that you've always had a problem with Trump's behavior. Did he go too far with Chuck Todd?
I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
Because I was busy. But I to the point about like, does it help Rick Saccone?
Yeah.
I think what happened is the president committed way too early to do this rally for Rick Saccone. He went to campaign for him in January. And that's when they start to realize, like, we got to pay attention to this race, or because we don't want to lose it. So he goes, and in the spur of the moment, he says, "And I'm going to come back here, and we're going to do a rally for you." And you get 6 weeks down the road, and you realize, oh, this candidate is not lighting the world on fire. He still could win. Saccone could win. It's just going to be close. And so I think that the president's time could be spent doing lots of other things. Like, does it help him get any of his agenda passed? Does it help get, like? Not really, but did the president have fun? Was anybody hurt? Not necessarily. And I think that most journalists, like Chuck Todd, well, I would say most journalists do not want to become the story. Okay, like there are some that we know that are in the briefing room who try every day to be the story, but I don't really understand what Chuck Todd did on Saturday or leading up to Saturday to have warranted the attack.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get up that early. I'm actually the sleepy one. Do you think that I try to frame Trump again as a roaster on Comedy Central. So whenever he opens his mouth, it's like he's jumping off a cliff. You never know. Like the joke might work, the joke might not work, but there's always a chance when you open your mouth among friends at a rally, you're going to say something that isn't going to work, and that happens to comedians and it happens to entertainers. And when you put it in that context, you can it makes more sense.
Not to me. I mean, I just think it's vulgar what he's done to the presidency. I mean, it's lowered our standards for what we expect from someone who traditionally has been, a leader, a person of character and principle. I mean, obviously, they're all politicians. They're all playing games. But the public behavior of a president, we've never seen anything like this. So, I mean, to my mind, he goes after Maggie Haberman of the New York Times and calls her a Hillary flunky. He goes after Chuck Todd. He says, don't boo Kim Jong-un because he's got talks coming. It just strikes me as crass behavior that you embrace now as normal. I mean, you say, well, it's fun. And he says,
different direction.
Oh, your ratings would go down if I didn't act like this, if I wasn't so clownish, and if the circus didn't come to town, and if the medicine man wasn't saying, hey, come on over here.
How is that being dishonest?
Well, I think I didn't say it's dishonest. I said it lowers the standards of the president. It's honest if that's who he is.
But to my point how about this? Let's say you are correct. This is beneath the office of the presidency. That has been said about almost every president doing one thing. Either whether it's about fashion or it's about something said. And then the public generally just says, so what? That's the problem, is the first half of the equation is criticizing him, but you don't have the second half, which is what do you do? Nobody cares.
I would say that the American people wanted this. They wanted someone to come in and tear up the playbook, and he definitely broke the mold, this president. That's what the country voted for. They didn't want someone like he did, the imitation, very presidential. They didn't want that. They were sick of it. They were bored by it, and they wanted someone to come in and flip over the table. And he's doing that. And it might be beneath the traditional standards of the presidency, as you've said, and I agree with that. But he's now changed the game and kind of renegotiated what those standards are. And that's the reality that the media still has not accepted. And they're still covering him, that they're shocked that he's behaving this way. And I think they need to cover him in relation to him and not Romney or President Obama or President Bush.
It's a lot. You're going to waste a lot of energy wishing he was acting a different way, is my point.
Right.
He spends so much time.
But they're
It's
still
never
gonna-
he's not going to change.
They're still going to
you know?
engage in it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, though. But people do. They tune in. It's like you can't stop watching or listening to it because you want to know what is he going to do next? What is he going to say? And he understands that. He really was transparent when he just said that right now. And he's like, you'd be so bored you wouldn't even be showing up here, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a sense of him getting some feedback and reward from being the way he is, which further encourages the behavior going forward that Juan and others are objecting to.
But the thing that's interesting is that he, to the point of the rally, was to help support a guy who nobody can name 2 days after the rally and who is in a really tough race.
Yeah.
And you have also the Democrat, Conor Lamb, had no primary. He runs pretty much like a Republican, right?
Yeah.
He's except for on the pro-life issues, he's pro-gun. He actually he supports President Trump on the tariff issue. I don't think that's a Republican issue, but it helps the district. And this race is super interesting. And they're setting it up that the Democrats will say that this is what we're going to be able to do. It's not necessarily the case. Most Democrats are in primaries that will require them to pull left. They will not be pro-gun or pro-Trump or in any way. And so it's not necessarily going to be the bellwether of 2018.
Yeah, but the other side of that, Dana,
I had a but.
Oh, go right ahead.
That's okay. I'm sure you're going to say the same thing. Go ahead.
I don't think so. I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
I was just going to say that the point is that the rally is meant to help bring out Republicans to vote for somebody. And I can see why, because the president committed too early to do a rally for him and then realized, you read in Axios this morning, the president's not too pleased with how this candidate has run his race. And it really should not have been this hard for Republicans to try to keep a race that Republicans have won by double digits for the last 3 cycles.
Yeah, they won. In fact, that was my point. We did have some similar ground here. It's been 15 years they've held this seat.
Yeah, right.
And you have them now pouring in tons of money that and this is where I disagree with you, they're not going to be able to pour this much money into every district
I agree.
where
there's
a
no way.
Republican is facing a stern challenge.
Right.
And not only that, you got to also remember Trump won the district, I think it's plus 19. So this is a big shift.
But the point is it shouldn't be as heavy lift as it
for
is.
them,
Yeah.
right. But this is the point, that something is going on. There are a lot of people who think that the Trump Act is getting a little much. And then to your point about the women, he attacks everybody. Let me tell you something. When he goes after Maxine Waters and questions her intelligence, he's playing on racial stereotypes.
Why?
That's delightful.
Why?
What if she,
No, let me finish.
I know a lot of stupid white people.
Hill. He goes after Jamel Hill.
Tell me
Should be
about it.
fired.
Juan, Greg
How
just
about this?
put up a whole
How about-
list of white
Let me just tell
people
you
that he's
something.
attacked in
No,
the
no, no.
same way.
Let me finish.
You missed the
Jamel
monologue.
Hill, Frederica Wilson, he goes after. Remember her?
Megyn Kelly.
Remember that?
Remember Megyn
How about
Kelly?
Donna Brazile?
Rosie
No,
O'Donnell?
I'm just saying, I think he has a thing with black women, wouldn't you say?
I think he has a thing with all people.
No,
And that
with
is he
all
doesn't
people.
care.
He has a thing
he
with
doesn't
everyone.
care.
Yes.
No, when he plays and when he goes after black women, he does it with a vengeance, with an anger.
So
I guess
find
Rosie
offensive.
is not white.
All right, so
Is that
Juan,
true?
if I happen to think that Maxine Waters is stupid, that makes me racist?
No, you can disagree.
Or perceptive?
Well, let me just say something. She's not stupid. And the second thing
She
to
said
say is
stupid
you could
things.
say, I disagree with Maxine.
Oh, yes.
Well, say it, but you don't have to somehow impugn her intellect.
People tell me I'm stupid all the time. People that I hang out
Wait,
with.
they haven't been impugning the president's intellect for the last year? They
No,
made
no.
him take a
She
minute
said he
like
was
you
insane.
did.
Did
They
he
said he
show-
was as Alzheimer's, Juan.
I didn't say that.
Everybody in the press
I
said
don't
the
know what
guy
he
was
said.
mentally ill.
Let me just say
and he says that about a
performance-
Democrat,
that
and now he's
performance-
racist?
That performance doesn't help your case.
Well, if a mentally ill candidate beat the pants off of Hillary,
All
what does
right.
that say about her?
That's pantsuits. All right. Elizabeth Warren now refusing to take a test that would prove whether she's Native American. Hear why next.
of them are actually smiling, but some of them just can't stand it, honestly. Some of them, they can't take it. Can you imagine having to cover Elizabeth Warren for 4 years?
President Trump turned some of his fire this weekend on potential Democratic opponents in 2020, like Senator Elizabeth Warren, who he was just talking about, once again mocking her over her unsubstantiated claim of Native American heritage. A newspaper in her home state of Massachusetts suggests she take a DNA test to settle the issue once and for all. So will she? Well, she danced around the subject on Fox News Sunday.
I'm not running for president, but let me tell you a little bit about my family. You know, my mom and dad were born and raised out in Oklahoma, and my daddy was in his teens when he fell in love with my mother. He was head over heels in love with her and wanted to marry her, and his family was bitterly opposed to that because she was part Native American. And eventually my parents eloped. They hung together for 63 years. I know who I am because of what my mother and my father told me. It's a part of who I am, and no one's ever going to take that away.
Gosh.
So that was on yesterday, Fox News Sunday, Greg. And when I first heard about it, I didn't know where the DNA test came from, but the Berkshire Eagle is a local paper, quite liberal, and they're the ones who are suggesting it. So I don't think it can be dismissed as some sort of
this isn't a
conspiracy.
No, the question. There's a couple of questions. Did she benefit from her unsubstantiated claim of her Native American heritage? Even her allies aren't sure if she put it on applications or not, but we do know that Harvard used her claim to validate their own diversity claim. So she was used, and she did, let's face it, she paraded her heritage around. She actually supplied Native American recipes to a cookbook, which were actually recipes taken from the New York Times. So I guess, are the Sulzbergers also part of the Cherokee family? I don't know. Sulzberger does not sound Cherokee. My advice for her is to pull a Rachel Dolezal, make Native American heritage your choice, which, you know, somehow elevates you among those born that way, because that's what's happening with Rachel Dolezal. If you say you are, that's almost like you're choosing it. That makes you better. She's paying the piper. This identity politics poisons everything. By elevating the group over the individual, her individual talents don't matter anymore. They don't, because it's now about this. So you live by identity politics and you die by identity politics. When you're part of the group, everything's great. When you're not part of the group, everything's bad.
Do you think, Kimberly, there's any way for her to get that behind her? I mean, I don't even think the DNA test wouldn't do it, because then you'd have to say about why the DNA test. I mean, I don't see how she gets past it.
Well, look, it's actually, there's some, liability here that attaches to it, because she has listed herself in legal, minority directories, and also checked it off in terms of applications, Ivy League schools. So for some reason, this doesn't come back with the exact, right amount, et cetera, to qualify for some of these things. She could be in trouble. So if she's an attorney, whatever, to tell her, hey, you better not get into this. So she definitely is trying to sidestep the issue. But it just goes to show you, the hypocrisy. People were literally hyperventilating panicattack.com over Trump's tax records, let alone look at this situation, right? We want his tax records. Well, what about the fact that Elizabeth Warren identifies? You're right. No one would have any objection to it if she pulled a Rachel Dolezal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But God forbid if we equip ourselves
Juan,
with the truth there.
You don't like that comparison?
I don't see it at all, so I just have to listen very carefully. But
Look into the future,
the president's tax records and the president's claims, boy, that's real. At what people say about their racial makeup, their background. Boy, we live in a country.
The question was whether she benefited professionally.
She didn't benefit because Harvard had said, and everybody else has said, that didn't impact her selection as a professor. What Greg said, and I don't know that, but he says that Harvard used it in terms of promoting their level of diversity, but it wasn't that she got the job because she put that on an application. But what concerns me here is, I know I did a DNA test recently, and I learned stuff about me that I had no idea about, like, links to Benin and
I'm your son, Juan.
That's it.
I'm your son.
Yes, I think it's
I'm also a black lesbian, just so you know, by choice.
And a cute one. But I just think that when you start getting into this is, again, mocking people. I think it's racially tinged. I think it's very unpleasant.
How?
Oh, Pocahontas?
No, that's like calling a dumb person Einstein.
There you
know when somebody's dumb, you go, knock it off, Einstein?
Yeah.
That's what this is. She's not Pocahontas.
I don't know that she's not. And clearly, I know. I sat here while while we played the tape, and all of you were like, "Oh, this is so canned and terrible that she says that her parents fell in love and had to elope." But let me just tell you, family history is very real in our country. And we have lots of mixed people, and people don't even know.
That's true.
When you ask
Ancestry.com
or 23andMe or whatever, they say it's something like a huge percentage, a majority of people have no idea about their DNA.
That's why it's so exciting. In fact, my dad bought us kits for Christmas.
Maybe we
this
should do
year.
that. A little.
What if we find out we're all related?
Because we have 30 seconds left, and Jesse's input is so important. Former Democratic Governor Deval Patrick is also saying he might want to run in 2020, and then she will have Bernie Sanders to contend with. It's going to be kind of a crowded field.
Well, she's never going to get over this. I agree with Kimberly. There's no way to put this behind her. And there's a lot of downfall if she takes the test. She can't take it. Number one, it's going to look like she got pressured into it.
Yeah.
She also can't take it because it's going to draw attention to a negative situation for her. And if, say, she takes it and gets the results, at best, she's what? 40 to 50% Native American. People are going to say, well, you don't look Native American. I don't believe the results. Or at worst, she's 2 to 0% Native American. And people are going to say, you're a big liar. And you were a big, you try to get up, play the race card. You bluffed, and then you're going to have to fold. I disagree, though, with Juan, though. She has used her racial heritage to her advantage, but only to her advantage. She has not aligned herself with Native American issues or Native American causes. The 2 times she used her racial so-called background was for the cookbook, for a profit, and to get into Harvard. And of course Harvard is going to accept someone with that type of background. It looks good for the diversity reports. Everybody understands that one. I actually am a little nervous about taking the spit test because I was told I had a certain racial background, and now my mom just said I might have some sort of French-Canadian background, and that terrifies me. I don't know how to wrap my head around that.
What told her that?
So I'm not taking the test.
What told her that? The
I don't know. I think she actually believes it.
French Canadian? Well, you never know.
Can you imagine that?
French, Kimberly. Can you believe it? I'm Canadian.
I'm part French. It's not that bad.
Well, everybody assumes that.
All right, we're going to move on. New revelations from OJ's If I Did It confession. We'll have it next.
Can I get a hallelujah? Can I get an amen? Feels like the Holy Ghost running through.
It had been shelved for more than a decade, but we finally got to see O.J. Simpson's, quote, hypothetical account of the murders of his ex-wife and her friend in a special titled The Lost Confession.
As things got heated, I just remember Nicole fell and hurt herself. And this guy kind of got into a karate thing. And I said, well, you think you can kick my ass? And I remember I grabbed the knife. I do remember that portion, taking the knife from Charlie. And to be honest, after that, I don't remember, except I'm standing there and there's all kind of stuff around. And I don't think any 2 people could be murdered the way they were without everybody being covered in blood. And of course, I think we've all seen the grisly pictures after. So yeah, I think everything would have been covered in blood.
Holy smokes. So that was taped in 2006. The victims' families at the time opposed its airing. But this week they were okay with it. So what do you make of this, Kimberly?
Well, this is just a unbelievably fascinating time, although so sad what happened here in terms of these gruesome murders. But I remember I went in to work at the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office with all of the interns were hired as the new DA class. They were all the interns from O.J. Simpson case. And it just, in terms of the impact it had on them, their lives, what you were doing there. And I went on to work, obviously, in that office and try cases there in that same, courtroom where O.J.'s case had been tried on the 9th floor of the criminal courts building. And I remember at the time when this happened, being in law school and everybody just watching it, watching the chase, everything. I mean, from a prosecutor's perspective, when you look at the enormous body of evidence, forensics, the science, the DNA behind it, there would just be no question. I mean, I don't remember ever getting a case as a DA that had that much compelling, persuasive evidence. And that's why it was just so internationally shocking to see that verdict, and then the complete juxtaposition of the verdict in the civil case, that they actually found it, in even a lesser standard. So it's very interesting to me.
So Jesse, one of the questions that comes up is, he says this was hypothetical, that he really wasn't confessing, But what do you think?
Well, he said it was hypothetical, and then he slips into, I remember. And then I remember grabbing the knife. So the whole thing falls apart. It was a confession. You don't even need the question mark. He's so delusional, and he's so dishonest, but at the same time, he's so captivating and so evil. This was almost like a cry for help. He wants people to know that he did it. I think there's a thing in his unconscious that he can't contain, and he's been, dying to say, I did it, I did it, I did it, because he knows he's not going to get hit with the double jeopardy. But to Kimberly's point, he should never have been out in 2006. They made so many mistakes on the prosecutorial side, from the glove, from the venue, to the jury selection, to some of the ridiculous witnesses, to the mishandling of the evidence and the DNA. It's a tragedy that this guy is even out right now. But I understand why the Goldman family, I think time has passed. They think maybe it's better, I think, from their perspective, from the estate's perspective, to get this out there. But I mean, if anybody deserves to be retried, I mean, it's this guy.
So, Dana, the thing that struck me was he said there's somebody named Charlie who was with him. He never says who this is.
I don't know. I mean, what's really interesting is that I don't know if it's so much of a cry for help as it is just a cry for attention. And what a disgusting human being. And I did have a quick question for Kimberly.
Yes.
If, as a lawyer, and if you're a defense lawyer and you believe that your client is guilty, do you have an ethical obligation to say something, or
no,
you just can?
No, because you have the attorney-client privilege, and based just on if they confess to you or they said something, it depends. But no, I mean, you have to protect your client. That's your job. And most of them probably think, their client is guilty or know they're guilty, but they try to give them the best possible defense.
Legal advice.
They have to.
So, by the way, Greg, he slanders Nicole in this thing. He says she had problems with her weight, and she had lots of plastic surgery. What the hell?
I can't
Murdering
believe
her wasn't bad enough.
Well, I'm just saying, he's
Awful.
killing. I mean, it never stops with this guy.
I can't believe this table. I mean, I watched the whole thing. He convinced me. Such a charming person with his jokes. He was so friendly. I think he's totally innocent. Either he's a complete idiot. He's obviously a narcissist.
Yeah.
But Judith Reagan is kind of a genius for figuring out a contraption that lured him out into this trap of hypothetical confession. And then you have this cold-blooded killer trying to come off as innocuous, and he just dug his own metaphorical grave. Meanwhile, while this is going on Oxygen, they had a documentary on Jeffrey Dahmer, which was far more interesting because he admits to every single thing he did and says that he would do it again. And he would do it again. He killed 17 victims, the same amount of people killed at Parkland. But they were black, mostly black, and gay, and nobody cared.
Yikes. A coffee shop in California won't serve police officers anymore. That brewing controversy. Next on The Fly.
Police officers aren't getting the respect they deserve in Oakland, California. They're not even being allowed to buy coffee in one cafe. Hasta Muerte Coffee has announced it won't serve cops in uniform because it isn't safe for customers. They claim, quote, police presence compromises our feeling of physical and emotional safety. Isn't that discrimination? Where's the ACLU? Greg, I mean, so if a coffee shop says we're not going to serve black people or Muslims, that would be a national story and probably illegal, right?
Yeah, but I guess because this isn't based on race. I mean, they'd have to deny a black police officer as well. I think they should declare Oakland a sanctuary city for police and see what happens. It would be like a cross between Lord of the Flies and Dawn of the Dead. California has to ask themselves, when is enough enough? You've got high unemployment, high welfare, high homelessness, high debt. You are number one in being number two. Police officers are now becoming janitors of human failure. Police officers now have to clean up after human filth left by the homeless population. Meanwhile, they have to act as social workers to coddled students on campus who need to be protected from words. Police officers aren't policing anymore. They're taking care of an asylum.
So if someone tries to rob this establishment, who are they going to call, Dana?
Ghostbusters. And guess what? They're not real. Greg's talked about the U-Haul problem.
Everybody
the U-Hauls
leaving.
are very expensive to leave, but no U-Hauls are going back. I think that talk about the brain drain. This weekend I read an article about how even Silicon Valley is saying that Silicon Valley is over. And you read some of the quotes, it's like, well, the city's too crowded, it's way too expensive, we don't like what's going on, so they're looking to move elsewhere and looking at places like rejuvenating cities, even like Detroit. And so I think people are going to leave.
Yeah.
This can't be good for business, Juan.
I don't know about that.
I mean, you don't think
lots
people
of
are going to see this and then never go to this coffee
I mean,
shop
it looks
again?
like such a nice
Oh,
place.
no, I don't think that at all. I think there are lots of people who are concerned about police brutality, and in a coffee shop where they see the cops with the guns, it's like open carry or something. People might be uncomfortable.
Well, I mean, unless are they breaking the law in the coffee shop? I
No.
mean,
By the
why
way,
would you be
I
uncomfortable?
disagree with them on their policy.
Okay.
You asked me if it would affect their business. I don't think it. This is like we were having a conversation about Farrakhan, and would that affect votes in the districts of black congressmen who have some association with Farrakhan? I don't think it's going to affect
Maybe in
it at all.
Oakland anything goes. Kimberly, is it legal to do this? I guess technically you can do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, is it legal? Is it very nice? No. This is just, it's disrespectful. And let me tell you, how will this, proprietor feel if they're robbed or anything? They'll be the first to complain if the police didn't get there fast enough, or if
And the
anyone
other thing is, what an
that works for them
advertisement to get robbed.
Yeah, well, I mean, there you go. Don't worry, there won't be any police. It's funny because a couple of the cases I had, the reason why they were able to catch people, one of them was a donut shop, and it was robbed. And the police officer was right there. They were able to get the guy, and he came in, and he was armed. He was trying to shoot people, so it was a whole situation. But nevertheless, why wouldn't you want to be welcoming to police? Like, why not? They're the ones putting their lives on the line every day. I don't think that helps the discourse or, the national dialogue about being upset about officer brutality or homicide, etc., by just saying, well, we're not going to serve you. How is that helping anything?
And if they do run into trouble, the police department should not allow them into the police department. Like if they have to report it stolen.
Yeah. Hasta la vista, hasta muerte. Ahead, the most important segment we've ever done.
You really butchered that.
A barbecue taste test right here at the table. KG's Food Court investigation up next.
Now for a special investigation, a crucial taste test edition of Kimberly's Food Court. Oh, do you love it? Well, someone's digging in already, so it must be pretty good. So when you think of the world's best barbecue, does this one come to mind? Because an uproar has ignited on social media after a food blog proclaimed a Brooklyn barbecue joint named Fetisau, is that how we pronounce it?
Yeah.
The world's best. As you can imagine, a lot of Southerners are scoffing, including some members of Congress in Texas, North Carolina, and elsewhere. There's pandemonium everywhere across the country. Now, we're going to be the judge. Some of us more judgy than others, because we've got some grub right here, and I have never seen anyone go so savage. Gutfeld. His mouth, the little mandible is just
I'm the king of ribs. I could eat ribs all day.
Yes. Okay, so I have to ask you, what do you think about this? Because this is a big uproar.
This is Brooklyn. Okay. This is really, really good barbecue. That picture they showed was the problem. The picture elevated design over delectability. It was supposed to look really precious. Look how precious it is. That's to say, when we have our barbecue, we're much superior and smarter than all you rubes down south.
Right.
So it's actually the fault of the picture. But the food is excellent. And I'm going to eat all of it, so I don't have to buy dinner tonight.
I mean, but is it a national affront to say that they have better barbecue than in Texas or in the South or anything like that, or you're fine with it?
I think that it's brilliant marketing because a lot of people have already gone to this restaurant. We're doing a topic on it, and it was probably good for all barbecue restaurants. Like this one tweet elevated all barbecue boats.
And by the way, that picture's 4 years old.
Oh, really?
The story's 4 years old.
Yeah, it was done by Vice.
But you know what's very,
It wasn't marketing, Dana. I mean, a reporter went and said this is the best barbecue, and then
accidental marketing.
But here's what's so interesting, too, about this is they're opening up a bunch of different Brooklyn barbecues, even in other countries, which is so hilarious. So now it's like this weird thing where Brooklyn is now known.
It's like Texas sushi.
Besides, like, cool, like, yuppie places, it's known for barbecue, which I think is fantastic. By the way, I love the dinosaur barbecue place, too. But
Yes.
that's a good one. Pretty good.
That's very good.
We did that for 4th of July.
I like that we're doing this segment and we're saying it's pretty good, because that's just going to make every barbecue place from Kansas City or Texas send us in the next couple days what they consider to be the best barbecue.
You are the man.
And we will be having the Kimberly's Food Court.
And I'm still encouraging her to use the forum of that program or some other public forum to apologize to tens of millions of Americans who were equally offended.
All right, it's going to be fantastic. That's tonight on the Fox News channel at 9 p.m. Eastern. Catch Hannity and Vice President Pence.
All right, time for something new. Greg's, that's a lot of work for a little reward. Maybe get a job.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check out this dude. It's video of a guy trying to steal a gumball machine. He's stealing it from an animal shelter.
Oh my God.
This goes on for a long time. He is trying his best to steal this thing. The gumballs spill out everywhere, but he's not going to give up. He's trying to pry open the quarter compartment. And I'm looking at this and I'm going like, if I had a guy that worked this hard on anything, I would hire him. But instead, he's working really, really hard to steal about 87 cents from a gumball machine. Anyway, did he end up outside with it? I don't know when this ends. That's him.
Oh, yeah.
He went out, he actually threw it over the fence, but they haven't caught him yet.
They haven't?
No.
Well, he's a good hider.
That's what he is. All right, Jesse, he's a good hider.
Okay, so everybody, it's National Napping Day today. Oh. It's because it's the first day after daylight saving time. It's not daylight savings for everybody out there. Daylight saving time. And some people have been, celebrating National Napping Day. As you see here, this guy is totally passed out. And some of us on the 5. Also napping. There's Juan dozing off during Gutfeld's monologue.
I saw that.
And this is Greg after he ate too much barbecue.
That's wait, I'm not wearing that.
Oh, I like it. You just made fun of the boys, the fellas.
Yeah, leave us girls alone.
Yeah, I was like, oh gosh, yeah.
All right, Juan.
I want to look weird.
Oh, by the way, don't make fun of napping. Napping's good stuff. With President Trump in office, it's become kind of hip to say character doesn't matter. It's only the policies that count. Well, here's a different take on character. Former Vice President Joe Biden encountered a homeless man as he was leaving the movies with his granddaughter over the weekend. Here's a picture. Now, this picture was taken by someone who recognized Mr. Biden. The revealing picture shows him not only talking to the homeless man, but writing something down before he handed it to him. The photo has been shared more than 120,000 times on Facebook. One person wrote about Biden, "Character is what you do when no one is watching."
It's amazing how that magically just came together,
Right.
What do you mean?
It's amazing how that came together. Picture was perfect.
Picture
no one was
wasn't
watching.
perfect.
What happens when no one is watching?
Well,
you get the picture taken.
When no one wants to run for president?
Yes.
I think he wants to run for president.
Well,
That's a good point.
I don't think that was a fake.
Set your DVRs. Never miss an episode of The 5. Special report up next with John Roberts tonight. Hey, John.
I'm not sure if you're